Saturday morning. Coffee shop on the corner near your apartment. You've been sitting here for 40 minutes. iPad open. Spreadsheet. 2 columns. One says buy. One says keep renting. The mortgage broker told you this was just math. Run the numbers. Make the decision. Move on. But you've run it 6 times already, and every time the answer changes, depending on how you feel when you look at it. Last month, the Fed moved rates again. The house you've been watching went up $12,000. Your down payment, which felt real back in January, now covers a smaller piece of something bigger. You've been refreshing the mortgage calculator more than your messages this week. People around you keep saying it's a good time or a bad time. They say both things with the same confidence. Your parents ask every time you call. So are you thinking about buying yet? You give the same non-answer. They will ask again next month. The spreadsheet keeps asking a money question. But somewhere underneath it, there's another question sitting there. Quieter. Harder to measure. What kind of life are you actually trying to build? You don't answer it. You order another coffee. Before this splits, one of them will be offered a job that could change their life, and won't be able to take it, not because of money, because selling the house would have turned the whole thing into a mess. The other will open a rent notice for the 5th time in 7 years. And finally sit with what that actually means. Neither of them is wrong. This is what happens next. You close on a Thursday, 11:43 in the morning. Title company office. Smells like carpet cleaner and recycled air. 6 people in the room. 5 of them do this every day. You don't. You sign your name 31 times. Nobody explains what most of the pages mean. You ask once. Carmen, the escrow officer, explains it patiently. You nod. You sign anyway. The mortgage, $237,000. 30-year fixed, 6.8%. Monthly payment, $1,562. That number doesn't include property tax, doesn't include insurance, doesn't include the things you haven't learned to include yet. They hand you a key. One key. Plain metal ring. No tag. You hold it in your palm before putting it in your pocket. You drive to the house alone. You unlock the door. You stand in the empty living room and listen. Nobody comes over to celebrate. You stand there for maybe 4 minutes. Then you go get pizza. But on the drive, you check that the key is still in your pocket 3 times. You sign a 12-month lease on a Tuesday evening. 1 bedroom, good light, walkable to the train. The landlord handles everything through an app. You like that? No small talk, just transactions. $3,200 to move in, gone the same afternoon. But then, and this matters, you look at the brokerage account. $38,000. Index funds. Low expense ratio. 4 years untouched. The machine has been running without you watching it. The lease is 12 months. After that, anywhere. You feel that as a physical thing when you sign. A lightness. Underneath that, something quieter. You don't say it out loud. The apartment had been repainted before you moved in. You can see it in the corners, slightly uneven, slightly rushed. Someone lived here before you, made it theirs, left. You look at the bare walls. You unpack your things. You put the furniture in roughly the same configuration as your last place, not because you planned it, just because you didn't stop to ask what you do differently. The coffee shop downstairs is good. The neighborhood is walkable. The lease is 12 months. For now, that's enough. The gap at 27 path. A walked out with a key and a mortgage. Path B walked out with flexibility and $38,000 still compounding. Neither of them is ahead. They traded different things for different things. At 27, the real distance between them isn't the numbers. It's what they each believe those numbers say about who they're becoming. The first winter, the furnace made a sound. Not loud, a soft rhythmic knocking around 2 in the morning. You Google it at 2:15. The results are not reassuring. A technician named Ray comes on a Wednesday, says, heat exchanger. You feel your stomach drop before he finishes the sentence. $4,200, not optional. You look at your emergency fund after writing the check. $840. The house eats first. That's the thing the mortgage calculator never shows you. 6 months later, the HOA raises dues. No vote. Just a letter. Someone in the Facebook group is furious about it. 12 people react with the angry emoji. Nothing changes. Property tax reassessment comes in October. Annual bill up by $940. The county decided your neighborhood is worth more now. You didn't decide that. You just live here. At 11 at night, at the kitchen table, you do the math. $300 more per month than the mortgage ever suggested. Every month. Quietly. Without asking. You don't tell anyone. There's a specific kind of embarrassment in buying something and then discovering you didn't fully understand what you bought. That same week, a friend who rents texts a photo from a weekend trip. He booked it on Friday afternoon, left Friday evening. You haven't done anything last minute in 2 years. Not because you can't. Because there's always something the house might need. And you've started living with that might in the back of your head. 60 days notice. That's what the email says. The landlord sold the building. The new owner wants the unit vacant. It's legal. It's polite. It gives you 2 months. You stand in the middle of the living room. 3 years here. Not a single nail hole anywhere. Not because you were careful, because you were always halfway calculating how close you were to the lease end. Moving costs $2,100. New deposit. Truck rental. A week of bad sleep. You put some stuff in a storage unit. $39 a month. You tell yourself it's temporary. But here's what also happens at 31. Your company makes an offer. Different city. Better title. 30% more. You say yes in less than a week. The renter can do that. The renter just goes. Brokerage account $68,000. While you were packing boxes, the machine kept running. You don't tell anyone what the moving cost, because you know someone who'd say, that's almost 3 mortgage payments. They'd be right. You wouldn't know what to say back. Nobody buys a house thinking they'll ever want to leave it. Nobody rents, thinking they'll still be doing it at 45. Both of them are making a reasonable bet on a version of themselves that doesn't exist yet. The bet isn't really about houses. It never was. The offer comes on a Monday. Better company, different city, you pull comps on your neighborhood. The market is soft. The realtor uses the word concessions in the first 10 minutes. After fees, after closing costs, after the soft market, you'd net approximately $11,000 on a house you've been paying into for 8 years. $11,000. You decline the offer. You say it wasn't the right fit. That's partially true. Here's what's also true. At 35, the house has more leverage over your future than you do. You signed for that at 27. You just didn't know what you were signing. Not because you were careless. Because nobody at closing hands you a document that says, any job offer in the next decade will have to clear a real estate market you cannot control. The house didn't trap you. You chose the routes. But a choice made at 27 is still operating on you at 35. And the hardest part, the part you don't say to anyone, is understanding that every life you build costs you certain other lives. That's not a mistake. That's just what choosing is. There's a real competence in that. And there's something else. You've lived in 4 apartments in 9 years. In none of them have you painted a wall. Not because you couldn't afford the paint, because you'd be halfway through picking a color and start thinking about the lease end date. The hooks are still in the moving box. The same box. On 3 moving trucks, still wrapped in newspaper from 2 apartments ago. Some nights, you walk through the apartment and realize you arranged the furniture exactly like the last place. After a while, you stop imagining what you'd do differently. You just recreate the last place again. That's not a money you've moved twice in 4 years. You're good at it now. You know which box to open first. Problem. That's a different kind of cost. Flexibility is real. The financial case for renting can be genuinely solid. But there's a version of flexibility that starts to feel, after enough years, less like open possibility and more like you just haven't landed yet. The renter knows this. They just don't say it in the rent versus buy debate. The group chat changes around 38. Nobody announces it. Used to be trips, restaurants, who changed jobs, and what you watched. Now it's, did you refinance yet? What rate did you lock? Which school district are you zoned for? We're adding a deck. Anyone done that recently? You're in this conversation. You are in this conversation now, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just what happens. But your friends who still rent have gone quiet in the thread. Not because they have nothing to say, because the conversation moved into a room they don't have a key to. You watch it happen in real time. The shorter messages, the emoji instead of words. You notice it. You don't say anything, because you remember, not that long ago, what it felt like to be on the outside of someone else's language. Your equity is at $160,000. You check the Zillow estimate the way people check their weight, knowing it won't tell you anything useful. Checking anyway. You refinanced 2 years ago. Payment dropped $212 a month. Felt like a quiet raise. No card. No congratulations. Just a smaller number that kept repeating. And slowly, without a single moment you can point to, the house starts to feel like yours. Not the investment version of yours. The actual version. Saturday afternoon in the backyard. Nothing to do. Just yours. But there are also nights you open your phone and see a photo. A friend who kept renting is in Lisbon. Apartment in Alfama. 3 months, maybe 6. You look at your backyard, you look at the photo, you don't type anything. You close the app. That's not regret. It's just the texture of the trade. The portfolio crossed $200,000 last March. You noted it, updated the spreadsheet, closed the app. Here's what's actually happening financially. In the last 12 months, the portfolio returned $17,000. You contributed $1,200. The machine added $17,000. You understand this completely. You've explained it to people who ask. But you've paid rent every month for 15 years. One night, 2 in the morning. No particular reason. You added up. $114,000. You don't show that number to anyone. Not because it's shameful, because you already know what someone would say. But you invested the difference. The math still works, and they'd be right. And somehow that doesn't make the number feel smaller. Then the rent notice arrives. Not the first one. The 5th one in 7 years. 9% this time. You sit with this one longer. Not because it breaks the budget. Because you realize, clearly, for the first time, that you have no say in this. Not this year. Not ever. As long as you're here. This number is someone else's decision. It will always be someone else's decision. You look at the portfolio, you look at the letter. One of them grew because of the choices you made. One of them exists entirely outside your control. Both are your life. And you sit there thinking, this isn't a bad life. This is genuinely a good life. And also, no column in that spreadsheet ever had a field for this feeling. The gap at 42 Path A. Net worth roughly $350,000. Mostly the house, not liquid, not divisible. Monthly costs are higher than the mortgage statement suggests. Flexibility low. A backyard that feels like his. A photo from Lisbon, he closed without typing anything. Path B. Net worth roughly $280,000, mostly liquid. Flexibility high. A rent notice she sat with longer than the others. A home she cannot fully claim. The gap is smaller than either expected, and it stopped being about numbers a long time ago. Both paths carry real risk. The homeowner risks stagnation, locked to an address when life wants to move. The renter risks instability, building something real on ground that belongs to someone else. At 42, if they were honest with each other, they'd both admit they're quietly afraid of exactly what the other person has. The mortgage has 9 years left. You can see the end of it. Not close. Visible. When it's gone, your monthly costs drop by $1,562. Most people pay rent their whole lives, and that number never goes away. Yours will. You built that. But the house is 22 years old now. A different Ray looks at the roof. 5 to 7 years maybe. The water heater is original. 2 deck boards are soft. Driveway needs sealing. The house is aging alongside you, and unlike you, it has no retirement account. It just has costs that show up without scheduling first. But here's also what's true. Your daughter knows this house the way you can only know a place you grew up in. She knows which step creaks. She knows the light in the kitchen in October at 4 in the afternoon. When she says home, she means this address. That's not on any balance sheet. But it's real. You built it the same way you built the equity, 1 month at a time. The rent notice this year, 6%. You've been here 4 years, the longest you've stayed anywhere. Every November, you wait for the envelope. This year, you actually look at mortgage rates. Not seriously, just to see. The broker quotes 6.9%. You're 49. A 30-year mortgage pays off at 79. You run the numbers, close the spreadsheet, open it the next morning. The portfolio is at $380,000. The math works, and you know it works. But buying at 49 doesn't feel like arriving somewhere. It feels like finally admitting that what you kept calling temporary was actually where you lived. You scroll through listings some nights. A house 3 miles away. Nice yard. Old kitchen. You look at the photos. You imagine it. Then you close the app. Not because you can't afford it. Because you've built a life that works without a fixed address. You're genuinely good at it. And changing something you're good at, even for something better, takes a kind of courage that looks from the outside exactly like hesitation. The homeowner chose roots. Roots hold you in place even when life asks you to move. The renter chose motion. Motion is its own kind of loneliness when you've been moving for 20 years. Neither one is wrong. Both of them are paying for something. The only question was always, which price can you actually live with? And the honest answer is, you don't fully know until you've already paid it. The mortgage is done, no ceremony, last payment, nothing scheduled next month. You sat with that, then made coffee. The house is worth somewhere between $480,000 and $540,000, depending on who you ask. Largest asset by a wide margin. Not liquid, not divisible, costs $1,100 a month just to exist, even when nothing needs fixing. Your financial advisor asks about your plan for the asset. Sell and downsize? Rent it out? Stay? You haven't answered. Tonight, you're in the backyard. New deck boards. Same backyard. 3 families on this block have been on their second owners since you moved in. You've watched this street for 35 years. You know what happened to the elm tree at the corner. You know what August sounds like here at 7 in the morning. That knowledge doesn't appear anywhere in the financial plan. It's not an asset class. It's just what accumulates when you stay somewhere long enough to become part of it. Your son calls on a Sunday. He and his partner found a place. They want you to see it. You drive out on Saturday. 1990s colonial. Decent street. Dated kitchen. You walk through with them. Watch your son knock on walls the way he's seen other people do it. You sit in the empty living room while they talk to the agent. Afternoon light through the windows. The silence of a house no one is living in yet. Something happens that you didn't expect. Not regret. Something more specific. You built something real. It doesn't look like this room. It looks like a portfolio and a passport and a life you moved through more lightly than most people do. The house your son is about to sign for will look like this room. Different constructions, both real. The agent comes back. Your son looks at you. What do you think? You say, get the inspection first. He laughs. You drove an hour to say that. But you also mean, this is yours to figure out. I learned enough to know I shouldn't figure it out for you. Saturday morning. Coffee shop. A woman a few tables away has her laptop open. 26, maybe 27, spreadsheet. 2 columns. You can tell what it is. Not from the numbers, from the expression. Trying to turn something that isn't just math into math. She has the same expression you had, the same one 10,000 people are wearing right now in coffee shops in different cities on different versions of the same spreadsheet. She scrolls. Types something, scrolls again. The column that says buy has no field for what it feels like to stay somewhere long enough to know what August sounds like at 7 in the morning. The column that says keep renting has no field for the hook still wrapped in a newspaper in a box that's been on 3 moving trucks. Both of those costs are real. Both of them are invisible in the spreadsheet. Both of them will show up. She orders another coffee. She stares at the screen. 2 columns. 2 lives. No column marked right. The spreadsheet is waiting. It will not tell her what she needs to know. That's not a failure of the spreadsheet. That's just a question it was never built to answer.